Thank you, colleagues. Welcome to, thank you so much for making the time. Welcome to PIRA Showcase. It's that time of the year where it's exciting, where we get to learn about different types of innovations that are happening across the consortium. So I'll start off by maybe laying out a few house rules. I will ask colleagues not to, at least to mute their mics if they are not speaking. And I also remind colleagues that for colleagues that are having, that are French speaking, there is a channel for French. So jump into the schedule. I'll start off with Dr. Maleti, who will give us opening remarks. From there, we have Sam Katengeza, Abigail, to speak about their project, to tell us about the exciting project on improving small-scale fish traders' livelihoods in Malawi. And then we'll move on to Kelly and Michael. They'll tell us about using health information technology governance and epidemiology approaches projects. Then it will be followed by George, Anik and Suzanne. They will tell us about their project, understanding the nexus between energy and water infrastructure, and so on and so on. This will be followed by Christiana, Buitumelo, and Kofi on their project on evaluation of evaluation of inclusive education programs. Exciting, I've actually learned about that project at some point. Then we'll move on to take question and answers. Amy, the co-director of AAP, will facilitate that one. After that, we'll then move on to the second last part of the presentations, which would be, we'll start with Messi and Walo on youth empowerment and building bridges for social changes. Lastly, we will look at the US-Botswana Collaborative Research Project on youth empowerment. That is Nizar, Firmon, and Doreen. Lastly, then we'll then jump on to question and answers, where Amy will take the last leg of that. She will then pass the baton to Richard to give the closing remarks. So lastly, colleagues, I want to remind all of us to keep our mics off if you're not speaking. And for those who have got many presenters in one presentation, I remind you that we do have only 10 minutes for each presentation. So we'll jump, I'll invite Dr. Jose Maleti to start opening remarks. Jose, over to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. Greetings from Michigan State University. My name is Jose Jackson Maleti, and I'm the co-director for the Alliance of African Partnership, and I'm based at the East Lansing campus of Michigan State University. I'd like to extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to our Partnership for Innovative Research in Africa, or PIRA as we call it, the showcase that is going to tell us the work that our colleagues across the continent and at MSU have been working on over the past couple of years. As you all are aware, the AAP is a consortium of 12 institutions, MSU, along with 11 leading universities and research organizations that are based in East, West, and Southern Africa. Our approach to solving global challenges is to collaborate with our partners on the ground in Africa and co-create the solutions together. The PIRA grant program is perhaps one of our largest funding programs at AAP, and they're provided to initiate and strengthen partnerships between our consortium members. And about 15 teams, I believe, received funding about 18 months to 2 years ago. And they were funded in a range of categories, including early career researchers, youth transformation, the African diaspora, and trans-regional partnerships. And you're going to hear from 2 of those categories today. The findings from many of these grants are being used right now to leverage larger funding from external donors, to increase the number of co-authored publications between the team members, and to increase the number of partners that are participating in AAP programs overall. Most importantly, though, these findings are being used, hopefully, to change lives in Africa and beyond, which is the AAP's vision. It is with great pleasure and anticipation then that we convene today to learn from these teams, from those teams that have been funded through the PIRA program. As we gather today, we are reminded of the immense potential that lies within the African continent, a potential waiting to be unlocked through these types of strategic partnerships and collective action. Africa is not only a continent of rich cultural heritage and diverse landscapes, but also a reservoir of untapped talent, creativity, and resilience. And I'd like us to remember this, a reservoir of untapped talent, creativity, and resilience. And we have a lot to offer. However, we are also acutely aware of the persistent challenges that continue to impede our progress and hinder the realization of Africa's full potential. In the face of these challenges, we recognize that no single institution would have all the solutions. And therefore, this is why we have to work together. This is why we are forging these equitable partnerships that empower African communities and would foster sustainable development. As we embark on this journey of disseminating these results, we want to reaffirm our commitment to equity, inclusivity, mutual respect, principles that are fundamental to the success of any partnership endeavor, but also to the core values of the AAP. Throughout today's program, we will have the opportunity to see the findings, to hear about the findings, and to engage in critical dialogue, exchange perhaps some best practices, and explore innovative approaches to addressing pressing challenges in Africa. And we hope that we will be demonstrating that leveraging our collective expertise and networks, that we can overcome even the most daunting obstacles. I'd like to express my gratitude to everyone who's here, who has contributed to participating in the research, and also spending your time this morning or this afternoon with us to hear what has happened over the past couple of years in these various projects. So in closing, let's seize this opportunity to reaffirm our shared vision of Africa, an Africa that is prosperous, inclusive, and resilient, an Africa where every individual has the opportunity to thrive and fulfill their potential. Let us build these bridges of understanding, cultivate a culture of collaboration, and embark on a journey of discovery and transformation. This is what the AAP is all about, and this is where the PIRA program will make a difference. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a productive experience in our showcase today. Abraham?
Abraham may have had some connectivity issues. Yeah, he had some connectivity issues. So I will go ahead. Thanks, Jose, for those inspiring remarks and capturing the spirit of the PIRA program. I'm going to go ahead and introduce the first team to present. We have these are the early career research grants, and the first team is presenting on improving small scale fish trader livelihoods in Malawi, data tools to improve market access. We have Sam Katengeza from Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, and Abigail Bennett from Michigan State University. So I turn it to you, Abby and Sam.
Okay, thank you so much. We are so excited to be here and to make a presentation of our work that was done in collaboration with our university in Malawi and the MSU. In this assignment, we were actually trying to answer a very important question. For some of you that have ever been to Malawi and the others that have never been here, our most important treasure is fish, especially from the Lake Malawi. We have the most delicious fish in this part of Africa. But the important challenge has been market access, especially for the smallholder fish traders. So our question was, can the data tools, can we identify a tool that could be one of the solutions for this important problem? So that's all about our study, trying to find a data tool that could improve market access, especially for the small-scale fish traders in order to improve their livelihood.
I hope you can see the slides advancing. So as Sam stated, our purpose was exactly that, to improve fish trader livelihoods by developing data tools and evidence-based interventions that improve equitable market access and reduce livelihood risks. And the idea for this proposal and this project came out of a workshop that we attended back in 2018 with fish traders, members of government, researchers, and others to identify challenges in the supply chain. And some of the challenges that were identified in that workshop were, first, that fish has no price. So the price of fish fluctuates a lot, and traders don't always have access to information about that price at different markets. And so sometimes they'll buy fish at the beach and take it to an urban market or another market, and then we'll lose money because the price is not high at those markets. We also found during that workshop that there are gendered inequities in the value chain. Although this was more anecdotal and there had been no systematic evidence generated about it yet. And also that there's lack of access to capital and storage among fish traders. And so these were the challenges that we were trying to address with our project.
Yeah, so what did we actually do? Yeah, so number one, we did a market survey where we analyzed the data from 900 plus traders. And these traders came from 79 markets, and this is across Malawi. That's from the south, north, and the central Malawi. And after doing that, we did develop a fish marketing phone application app, and also we pilot it in a number of markets, again, across Malawi, to understand how the traders themselves perceiving that application. In the process, we also conducted some focus group discussions. We also did further marketing surveys in the process. The whole idea for all this, we wanted to understand the preferences of the fish traders in terms of the features of the application app, and also do they accept their acceptability and their willingness to use the tool, and also to pay for the tool. And again, we had also to understand the dimensions, the dynamics in terms of gender along the whole fish value chain. In the process, we also had this multi-stakeholder workshop. The whole idea was for us to present what we have done, the app in particular, and get the feedback from the stakeholders. Where do we need to improve? Where do we move from now? And we also collaborated with FAO, where one of the students that were part of the project was attached in order to also understand further what other stakeholders are doing and what they expect from us. So this is what we have done so far in this project.
And we wanted to just show you a couple of photos from our field work. These two photos are some of the fieldwork we did to understand gender dimensions of the value chains, and in particular, some of the challenges and also opportunities facing female fish traders. On the left, we're at the beach, understanding how prices are set at auctions as the boats come in with fish. And the gentleman in the red shirt is showing us that the quantity of fish is measured by how many rungs on the boat is filled with fish when it comes in. And so these are competitive auctions that sometimes disadvantage women when they're going to try to buy fish at the beach and compete with other buyers. The photo on the right is from the Lilongwe Fish Market. It's the biggest fish market in Malawi. And we're talking to this gentleman about, he's a plot owner, and we're talking to him about how different traders gain access to use spaces at the market. Of course, we talked to female fish traders as well. These two photos just happen to be with us talking to male research participants.
Yes, similarly, so these are also fieldwork activities where we are trying to showcase the phone application app. So as you can see, these are also in the market. Some of these are also at the Lilongwe fish market, others are at the beach. So we sampled all those markets and then showcase the app, and they also have that discussion how they felt about the app.
So we'll talk about just some of the outputs and results of the project. We've had a couple of publications about our research come out. The first one that I'll mention is called Spatial Analysis of Aquatic Food Access Can Inform Nutrition Sensitive Policy. And what we did in this paper is, because we visited all of these fish markets and did surveys with fish traders to understand how fish was moving from the lakeshore to both urban and rural markets throughout the country, and how different fish species were going to different places. We analyzed those flows and thought about some of the implications for who then has access to these fish, including both physical access, who lives near these markets where fish is sold, and economic access as well, who can afford these fish.
Yeah, so these are some of the markets that we targeted. So this publication has captured the spatial of these markets. So you can see some of them, like Mzuzu is in the northern region, Lilongwe is in the central region, Blantyre is in the southern region. So we tried to capture that kind of spatial variations.
2 minutes, Sam.
All right, we'll maybe skip through a couple of the publications, but another one we looked at was about the gendered norms and economic performance in the value chain. We found that there were significant differences in male and female fish traders' profit margins, and used our focus group data to think about the norms, gender norms that were underlying those. And then one more really important publication that came out of this was the master's thesis of Patrick Chimseu, who investigated the preferences and willingness to pay among fish traders for the phone app. Hold on, I'm trying to advance the slide, but I lost my cursor. Here it is. And maybe I'll also just only mention briefly this workshop that we had, where we presented some of our preliminary results and the phone app that we had been developing to a wide variety of stakeholders in Mangochi to get feedback on the phone app. And briefly, we also just wanted to show you some images of what the phone app looks like, and mentioned that it works in both USSD and APK formats. Sam, I'll pass it to you to talk about some of our next steps and funding proposals.
Yeah, sure. So some of our next steps, we did the apply to scale up this activity. So we submitted this proposal last year. Unfortunately, we were not successful, but we are still hoping that we can still get other opportunities. So the USAID and also the NSF some opportunities. Yeah, so in simple terms, these are our next steps. We hope to scale up the activity by getting more funding. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam and Abigail. This was really exciting. And our next presenters is Kelly and Michael. They'll be telling us more about their project on using health information technology, governance, and epidemiology approaches to implement sustainable digital health systems in central Uganda. Kelly, Michael, over to you.
Thank you, Abraham. And good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all of you. My name is Michael Chizito from Uganda, in Makerere University, and we did this project with Kelly from the University of Michigan, but she's unable to present, so I'll be presenting alone today. So
Great.
Our project was really on building sustainable health systems in health information technology, governance, and epidemiology to address digital health solutions in central Uganda. And like I already said, this is a brief. We're two early career researchers, me and Kelly. I'm in the Department of Computer Science, Makerere University, and she is in the College of Human Medicine, and she's a community-based researcher in rural Northwest Michigan. So about the project, we definitely were about working to mutually benefit, of course, and also see how we can share our expertise during the process. And of course, since we're early career, we wanted to see how to support each other to grow our careers. So this project focused on developing strategies to implement digital health platforms in central Uganda. And of course, it was a follow-up from what Dr. Hako did in the underserved settings in rural North Michigan. So for me, since the project ran in Uganda, I was in charge of project coordination on the Ugandan side, and I carried out the interviews, distributed surveys, of course, organizing dissemination workshop, and then analyzing the collected data. Kelly, on the other hand, focused on developing the data collection tools and, of course, doing the analytics, especially for the survey, and then also supporting the monitoring and evaluation. Now, the key stakeholders that were involved here were basically doctors, nurses, health IT officers, and nurses at specifically Health Center 3s and Health Center 4s. So in Uganda, we have a network of that works or provides healthcare. So we start from Health Center 2, Health Center 3, Health Center 4, and then we go to a regional referral and then national referral. So we focused on these health centers, that is Kasangati Health Center 4, Bowambo Health Center 4, Namulonge Health Center 3, and Watuba Health Center 3. And then we also talked to some health IT officers at IDI in Kasangati. So these were the areas we focused on because that is part of central Uganda. So the focus was in Wakiso. And the problem generally was the inability to access quality healthcare services, which is critical in achieving optimal health outcomes. And we noted that not only in Africa, but also in the world over, in underserved regions or rural regions, there is normally a problem of getting or reaching out to healthcare. So they encounter barriers to receiving healthcare, and that includes the low number of healthcare providers within a geographic region, and then reduced financial means to pay for services, and other things like lower means to reach and use healthcare services. So those are things that are common both in developed and developing countries. And of course, there's medical mistrust as well. Now, our objectives were generally, of course, to establish a partnership, which we did, and then to be able to build some kind of productive collaboration history. And we conducted a preliminary assessment of telehealth needs and barriers among community stakeholders in central Uganda in those health centers that I talked about earlier. So the aims were basically three. And one of them was, aim one was to characterize the current use of telehealth systems through surveys, interviews of about 150 stakeholders, which included doctors, nurses, health IT staff, patients, health facility administrators, and including at least 5 people in each of the categories listed above from the health centers. So for this, we're able to actually receive, we got, at least the 5. And then IT, of course, we are not able to get 5 because we found that there was actually only 1 IT health staff. And then the doctors also, there was only 1 because that's what is given maybe by the government. And then, of course, the administrators were quite busy, were unable to get them. But then we got at least to come up to interview focus groups, especially from patients, premarital ladies who had come for premarital, or rather antenatal services, and then those who had come for general hospital or maybe different diseases. And then we also talked to those who had come to brought their children for immunization. So we got a group of those different patients. Then the aim too was to identify preferences and needs for telehealth. And of course, that also was through surveys and interviews. And then to identify barriers to telehealth implementation. So with those aims, what were our findings? For under aim 1, characterizing the current use of telehealth systems, we discovered that most of the informants indicated that they have used telehealth, but the systems are not entirely in place. Of course, being able to use a phone, either using the internet to do initial diagnosis, or maybe to talk to a doctor for prescription, especially, when COVID was happening, because that time there was no movement. So that was a way that they used telehealth. And then we also noted that those other patients, I forgot to mention this, the ones who are on antiretroviral treatment. Those ones also have their monitoring system for TB, and then the ART, in which they use mobile phones, and this is done on a weekly basis. Then the internet, of course, as a first level diagnosis tool. And then another scenario, of course, under this internet thing was someone's child had high temperature. And when they got high temperature, they got a rag and tried to cool the temperature. But unfortunately, they used a cold rag, and the child convulsed. So from the internet, they discovered that they have to use a warm cloth. So this was at least first-hand information that was shared during the focus groups. And then, of course, I already talked about the lockdown movements. And so people used a lot of telehealth via phones as medical consultation. And then there's the DIHS system too, which generally picks information from health centers, and it's sent to the Ministry of Health to help in planning or how much will be needed, or generally, let's say budgeting, how much drugs will be needed for each of the health centers for the next financial year. Then there is the EPI-VAC and MTRAC, which generally just aggregate data in terms of weekly. Okay, thank you. Monthly and weekly. And then I also talked about the infectious diseases that we looked at. Now, under aim 2, identifying the preferences and needs, Most people said since they've been using it but not aware, if an ecosystem could be put in place, say at a referral health center or at hospitals, and then infrastructure is also put in place, and then provision of toll-free lines and 24/7 services with possibility of ambulances and drug delivery, and then also ability to pick samples from patients wherever they are, as opposed to going to hospital. Then under aim 3, identifying barriers to telehealth implementation and use. Of course, the barrier was limited resources in case of patients. They don't have money to buy gadgets, as well as moving to the health centers. Then the low IT literacy rates, then lack of a clear sustainable plan in the telehealth system, like ecosystem. And then of course, some patients thought telehealth would not work because they say if you go physically to a health center, nurses will shout at you. So how will it work when we are on the internet? And then finally, I'll talk about some of the outcomes. So we presented this work in a global dissemination and implementation science conference in New York. That was Kelly who presented this because I could not travel. There was a little bit of struggle, but that was presented. And now we are working on completing a publication that we shall send to a particular journal. It's midway. We're now doing the analysis and trying to establish which publication venue where to submit. And then we also had a dissemination workshop at Makerere University where we met all the teams that we met, especially for the doctors and nurses and not the patients. So we shared, right? Thank you. So we shared what we got from the findings and then discussed from the different perspectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. I'm told that George and the team were not able to make it to the presentation. We'll be having another session in the next time. So we will move on to Christina, Bitumele and Kofi, and Patrick. They'll be telling us about their project on the evaluation of inclusive education programs for transitioning age students with intellectual and development disability in Botswana and Ghana. Over to you, Christina and team.
Thank you. B2, are you pulling up the slides? Or you will?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, all right. So
Project
would you
this
be?
slide, I hope.
Yep. Would you be able to pull up the slides?
I thought the slide would be popping up from there. I don't have it on my laptop, but then.
Okay, Derek,
Yeah.
would you mind pulling up the slides? Because I
Not
won't
a
be able
problem.
to.
Give me just 1 second.
Thank you so much. So while we are pulling up the slides, maybe I can give some context about the project. So across the globe, there are a lot of challenges with people with disabilities, particularly students with disabilities, having access to inclusive education and transitioning from schools into the community, gaining access to employment and basically the social inclusion issue. So the project is focusing on looking at what are some of the barriers that are faced by students with disabilities, particularly intellectual and developmental disabilities in Botswana and Ghana, and what are some of the practices that they have been doing in order to create a more inclusive transition framework for the population. So this is a project that in collaboration with University of Botswana, KNUST, and Michigan State University. So because of, in the interest of time, we are not going to cover the whole project, but we will use what we have done in Botswana as an exemplar to illustrate what have we accomplished, because a lot of the things actually we adopted a very similar procedure in Ghana context as well, but with some cultural adaptation. And I want to also highlight that because of the work that we do, we were actually invited to one of the United Nations presentations. So I'm going to pass the baton to B2 to go provide an overview and also go more in depth in terms of what we have done in Botswana with the team there. So B2.
Thank you, Connie. Can we move on with the slide? I don't know if I have control over the slide or what. But like as Connie has already explained, this is a collaborative study partnership from the internally local universities and then externally, as well as bringing in stakeholders who are linked to the area of concern of the project, which is inclusive education and intellectual and developmental studies. So those are the teams that are showing this type of collaboration. And the representatives are coming from different avenues, like I was saying. Some are community-based, some are from different government and non-governmental departments, just depending on the area in which they are operating. And as we move on, can we move on with the slide? We are moving on to the next slide, which will be showing the problem case. Can we move on? That is the collaboration part. I wish I had control over this so that I can move the way I want. Okay, now our main problem is based on, as you see those pictures, which are indicating the problem case. That is, in the context of Botswana, we have some specialized provisions for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, which is the most excluded group in our context this side, which we felt maybe there is need for us to look into. So those are the kind of buildings that are there for such learners in our context. That is where the transition is actually taking place, in those specialized facilities. Like Connie has already explained, the aim of this project was to try to understand transition practices that are taking place. Can you move on the slide? That are taking place within the specialized unit. What is really going on, so that we understand what is preventing these individuals from progressing from one level to another. The other aim was to come up with a contextually and evidence-based responsive transition to work framework in the different two contexts, and lastly to strengthen collaboration in the internally, externally, and with other stakeholders. Now, what follows again is a picture that is emphasizing issues of collaboration at the university level, University of Botswana level, where we were sharing the findings and also conducting some various workshops for our various stakeholders. And then in terms of our methodology, we adopted an explanatory sequential mixed method approach, where surveys were conducted first, and then they were followed by the focus group discussions, and then consultative workshops, which are still ongoing right now as part of our data collection method. And then we were focusing in our context in Botswana in about 4 regions: Southern, Southeast, Kweneng, and the target group were the teachers of students with IDD, the students with IDD themselves, and their parents. So we move on to the next slide. We remember I mentioned that our main aim was to come up with a transition framework as an output for this project. And following this, can you move it, please? Following this one, we have a Botswana education transition. Can you move? Yes, Botswana education transition pathway. That is what we have in our education system, which we have adopted and used to, guide the transition framework that we have come up with in the project. Quickly, when you look at our transition system, education system framework, we have pre-primary, primary, and junior secondary school. And then you'd realize that the learners that we are talking about are housed at the primary school, the green shaded area. That is where they are, the units are there. And when you look at the following stage, which is the junior secondary schooling, the bluish part, you would see that there are transition pathways indicated by those blue arrows to indicate that upon completion of junior secondary school, there are quite a number of exiting points according to the choices of the learners, their strengths and their weaknesses.
Yeah, then I turn off the.
No, just click, remove the button, Bluetooth. Have you removed?
Yeah, remove.
Britumel, are you there? It looks like we lost Britumel. Or maybe someone, Connie, in a team could.
Yeah, I can jump in.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so basically what we are trying to do is to look at, we conducted surveys, 200 surveys in each country in Botswana and Ghana, and with participants, including students, parents, teachers, and employers. And we also conducted focus groups with 40 participants in each country to look at what are their current practices. So this is the pathway. Sorry, this is the pathway that was laid out in Botswana, looking at how typically students move from primary education and onwards. Unfortunately, a lot of the students with disability, they are pretty much stay in the primary education because of the lack of resources and infrastructure to support them in moving on to secondary and post-secondary education. So that's basically the pathways that we are trying to illustrate is the lack of access to these opportunities and education for the population. Next slide, please. So with the input from all the stakeholders and the partners that we work with, we were able to use the focus group data and also the survey data, put together a framework to guide the different components that and also transition practices. So some of the component including involving the students with disability in the transition process, involving the families, and also collaborating among the different stakeholders, including parents, teachers, and also potential employers as they exit the school. And there are also things that were suggested in terms of creating individual education plan, involving them in different vocational training during the transition. When we did the focus group and also the survey, because we got input from different stakeholders, it was very interesting that teachers were sharing that they did some of those practices, including IEP goals, involving students in the vocational training. However, when we look at the results from the parents, it was very interesting that they were not consistent, or some of those were not provided. And so with the discrepancies between the parent and teacher, we are working with stakeholders to look at, okay, these are the components that were identified as important, but how could we make sure those are actually implemented on the ground? So as you can see in the framework, there are different components like family engagement, interagency collaboration, vocational training path, employment training path. So all of those were identified as best practices and evidence-based practice that were implemented in the US. So next slide, please. I just want to make sure, is B2 back?
I'm there,
Yes,
Connie.
I
I don't
think so,
know.
yeah.
Can you hear me?
So B2, yes. So maybe you can, do you want me to continue or you want to take it from here?
Let me continue.
Okay.
What we are seeing next is the outcomes of the project as shown in various consultative workshops that were being conducted to try to validate, to get social validation of the framework. So we visited quite a number of stakeholders, like the Ministry of Education, meeting with the directors, Ministry of Local Government, and all the stakeholder ministries. And we can see even the regions that we've been conducting our study on have also been visited, as shown in those captions. And the outcomes also, as we follow in the next slide, we are seeing testimonies that are also showing some form of impact of the study, where we are witnessing a number of promotions for our teachers in the special education units who are given posts of responsibilities to better position the direction of our of implementing initiatives such as this framework. And we are seeing a possible impact again on our far right hand side, where we are witnessing our students with intellectual disabilities. Schools have come up with initiatives after our visits, after the project, initiatives which are preparing these learners to go out into the world of work, as we have actually envisioned in this project. There are also some media coverages of the project. It is actually well known throughout the country, as shown in various non-governmental and governmental media captions. The television, the daily news, the newspapers, as well as the radio stations. So this was a way of trying to share the framework, so that at the end of the day, Botswana can actually adopt the framework and own it as theirs. And lastly, as a form of recommendation, as a way of trying to, carry on with the project, in terms of seeking for more funding, we intend to upscale to other stakeholders, because we only focused on 3 when there are quite a number of stakeholders that are supposed to be targeted for this project, like interagency or other disciplinary agencies, like employers or potential employers, social workers, social welfare officers, and so forth and so forth. So we intend to upscale to that level, as well as covering the whole country. Remember, we just sampled about 4 regions in the country. And the country has got quite a number of regions that we did not visit. We also intend to do what you call capacity building before we can implement the intervention or the framework. So that is the kind of work that we still need to embark on if funding can be facilitated. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, B2 and Connie. Colleagues, I hope that you've been listening attentively and taking notes. And if you have questions, I think I will allow then Amy to facilitate you on the next session of questions and answers. Thank you. Amy, over to you.
Thank you, Abraham, and thank you to all the presenters who presented thus far. Please, I invite the audience to submit questions in the Q&A feature on a computer. It's at the bottom of the screen, and we will get to those. I have a couple of questions specifically for Michael and your team around what challenges and what, this is from Stephen Arafa. What were your challenges and what would be your advice to someone who wants to go into telehealth? So Michael, if you could take that question.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. And thank you for the question. Now, the challenges, of course, were that one, the illiteracy, low levels of illiteracy, because sometimes you have to, especially to the patients, you have to explain what telehealth was. And then, of course, they went into the fact that we do not know how to use phones, let alone we don't have money to buy them. And of course, the nurses also were like, there's no budget for, in Uganda, we have data bundles that put on phones.
they don't have like a broadband connection. So those hospitals were like, there's no budget for that. And all we do actually, what happens is projects like these ones are the ones that kind of will give them data. Once the project is done, there's no more data. So those briefly are some of the issues that we encountered. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. I have a question for Abigail and Samson, Dr. Bennett and Katengeza. Well, it seems the first two presentations focused on some uses of technology for communication, information sharing, and coordinating among target groups. So I wanted to see, like, in your work in the fish space, did you take any lessons from other sectors like telehealth, as Michael's talking about, to look at how to solve some of those communication and information dissemination strategies?
We didn't, but of course, just listening now, I also had the same thought that we should. We did, as we were developing the app, we did a review of agricultural trade related apps to identify what were some of the common challenges that they faced, but really didn't go outside of the agricultural sector. And so now, yeah, I'm realizing, having watched this, that there's definitely opportunity to do that. I don't know if Sam has anything to add.
No, Abby, I think for the interest of time, I think you have ably responded. That's fine. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. That's great. I love it when these connections can be made. I have a question then for Boitumelo and Connie from Titus Awakuse. Could there be issues with lack of employment incentives in the economy? Are there enough jobs graduated to transition from primary through comprehensive and more advanced pathways? So that is to Connie and Boitumelo.
I missed the first part of the question.
So could there be issues with lack of employment incentives in the economy? Are there enough jobs for those graduated to transition from primary through comprehensive and more advanced pathways?
Generally, like we all know, issues of employment cut across all sectors for people with or without disabilities. However, in our context, the way we are looking at it, we are saying with individuals with intellectual disabilities, they tend to be completely left out. They are not competitive because upon exit of these units, they leave without having acquired the necessary skills that can at least help them to live independently, even before going into employment, just getting integrated in the community itself. So our main aim here was to try to open avenues, not basically only on employment per se, but to see that they also have those pathways. Like we see the system itself has got pathways, multiple pathways for various students. So we wanted to open one or two spaces for them to also graduate somewhere instead of graduating home. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There's another question that came in from Azubike Achike to Michael. Did you consider the risk of medical quacks exploiting unsuspecting rural dwellers and the need to use intranet instead of an open internet facility? So that's to you, Michael.
The idea, yeah, so you're talking about medical quacks, that's correct?
Yeah, Azubike is asking, did you consider the risk of medical quacks exploiting unsuspecting rural dwellers and the need to use intranet instead of an open internet facility?
Actually, we did not. We took it as general, okay, like the internet has solutions. But I think one thing that we talked about was like internet was being used like first level diagnosis, then you need to go for second opinion to confirm that this is it. But like the example I gave for the lady who was trying to cool the temperature of her child and used a wet cloth instead of a warm one, she went to the internet and discovered that actually it has to be a warm cloth after the child has convulsed. So there are those that are quite good, and then the others that require second opinion. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Now to Abigail and Samson. Could you talk about any unexpected results that came out of your research and that had opened up any new avenues of research to pursue in the future? So did you have anything unexpected come up that you're sort of thinking could be a new avenue for research in the future?
Yeah, not really any expected. Yeah, but rather through the discussion during the focus group discussions, there were some issues related to lack of proper infrastructure in the especially in the markets. Yeah, as you noted that most of these markets, like they are in the lakeshore areas, which are in the rural areas. So some infrastructure that be needed, like maybe storage facilities. So those issues were coming out, and that's what led us to have that other application that I did indicate that we also made an application. Unfortunately, we did not succeed that time, but it's an interesting area that we can go for another study in the future, given an opportunity. Yeah, maybe Abe can also add something. Thank you.
Yeah, totally agree. And then the one other thing that comes to mind, and especially in thinking about some of these discussions around, using internet and using communication technologies, is that we found it's really important to try to understand issues of risk and trust when using the apps for trade. And it seems like that might be kind of a common theme across some of these issues. And so that we are interested now in developing a proposal to understand how does trustworthiness, and risk vary between kind of traditional market settings and use of these digital technologies for trade. So that's one other topic that's come out as well.
Yeah, and I think about the other question that was just asked around quacks in the medical field and building trust that whatever you're receiving through telehealth also is, reliable information. So that trust issue, I think, is quite an interesting one. Then a question to Boitumelo and Connie. How did your team create an inclusive and equitable partnership? That's one of the goals of the PIRA project. And specifically looking at how you divided up the work and how you work together. Were there any lessons that you kind of learned as you went along for how to work through those partnership issues?
That's an excellent question. Very good question. First, when we started putting the proposal together, we have both partners involved, and we started talking about even from the work and also the budget. Initially, we were dividing up like equally among 3 partners. And as the work started, we quickly realized there are a lot more resources that was needed for both the Ghana and Botswana team because of the work that is on the ground. So we were able to come to consensus that we moved the budget around to really support both team in African country, to support like the RAs, the investigators, and also supporting the community partners who participate, so that we can use the funding really towards what would be benefiting the project and also all the partners. In addition, the planning and also like creating the different research like protocols, focus groups, questions, surveys, all of those, we work together to come up with like the original template, and then we have each partner contextualize it for the country. And we recognize most of the work on the ground is in Ghana and Botswana, and that's why the budget and also personnel we all put towards the two countries. And now, as we are finished all the data collection with focus groups and survey, we are looking at the data analysis. So with the data analysis, the way that we look at it is tapping into the expertise and also what each partner among the partnership is most comfortable. So an example being, because it's a mixed method study, we have focus group data, which is more qualitative, and survey data, which is more quantitative. So both researchers in both countries, Ghana and Botswana, they have more expertise in the qualitative, and so they are working on the qualitative analysis. And MSU researchers, they are more experienced. We are more experienced in quantitative, so we basically took on all the quantitative analysis and interpretation on our end. So we are doing more the back end of the work for the project, but the African partners doing more the like on the ground and the qualitative. And now we are at a point that we are working on like manuscripts and all that. So that would be each of the manuscript, because of the mixed method nature of the project, we will include both set of data. So I mentioned about even the UN event that we were we were really privileged to be invited and attend and present. We were able to bring partners from both countries to attend in New York at the headquarters, UN headquarters. And I want to give a shout out to PIRA for providing some of the funding to support, especially, and also some of the funding that we were able to use. So all what I want to say is we really work closely to see what is needed in the project, and we were able to move things around and tap into the expertise of each partner and also making it work. So I don't know if that answered the question.
No, Connie, that was super helpful. Thank you. Boitumelo, anything to add from your side? Well, she's muted. Boitumelo? Maybe connectivity issues. Oh, there you are.
Okay.
Anything to add from your side?
Just to add on the collaboration or stakeholder collaboration in the context, how did we bring all these different stakeholders together? We first did purposefully identified those stakeholders that we knew were working hand in hand with individuals with IDD. And then from there, we did what we call snowballing. From these ones, they keep on telling us, they keep on pointing to us who can also, contribute positively in the study. Also the media, I just don't want to lie, it has done a wonderful job for us, because some of the stakeholders were coming after having read from the media or having listened to whatever or watched on TV, and they volunteered their services. So that is how we managed to bring them together. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, I want to thank all of the presenters that have gone so far. Very interesting work, and I've already learned a lot this morning. And I encourage the audience to continue to put questions in the Q&A feature. And if there are questions for those who've just presented, they can answer them, typing in that Q&A feature. So feel free to keep adding questions there. And also, as our next presenters go, please be sure to put questions in the Q&A feature. So thank you to the teams who presented in the early career researcher category, and I'll turn it over to Abraham to introduce the next presentation.
All right, thank you so much. Indeed, we're learning a lot as people are responding, and really, this is quite exciting. Yeah, in the next round two, we are going to be focusing on youth transformation grants. These are grants that are offered to support youth transformation across the continent, and the partnerships or innovative ideas to support innovative ideas around for youth transformation. So we will start off with youth empowerment, building bridges for social changes in Francophone Africa. Mercy, yeah, please jump on it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will start the presentation. I'm going to be presenting a little bit of this today, and then my colleague, Dr. Bienvenu Azembo, will come in with some of the information on Benin. Our colleague, Dr. Wilore Tambura, sends her apologies as she can't make it today, so I will be doing her presentation as well. Our project very quickly gained a slogan or a secondary name, Parole aux Jeunes, or Youth Speak. And I'm thinking about Jose's comments in the beginning about this reservoir of talent, creativity, and resilience. And youth are sometimes thought of in that way, and sometimes they are thought of as a potential for making trouble, a challenge we have to deal with, and other sort of not so positive ways. And in this project, the three of us had been working on projects separately for many years with NGOs and with community members. And this PIRA project was a way for us to bring them all together and to make connections between not just youth at the university, not just youth who've had the chance to get to the university, but with youth in the community outside of the university. And we built our project off of a few sort of long-standing relationships with NGOs that we had, and used this opportunity to expand them out. And you'll see that it went two different ways in both countries, but we were able to bring them together through various workshops and engagements, and through this long-standing project that we've had. So I'll get quickly to the, sorry, got to go back to my thing to move. Okay, so we had several objectives of our project. The first objective was to build capacity in community-engaged scholarship among faculty, both at UAC in Benin and ULSHB in Mali. Bienvenu Azembo and I had worked together on a project several years before that was a joint project between Michigan State University students in Peace and Justice Studies and an NGO in Benin that was serving underserved communities. And at the same time, Wilore Tambura had been working with Steve Esquith with students at ARCA on peace building initiatives, and did a joint coursework. So we tried to find ways that we could expand not just between the two courses, but to other faculty members who wanted to start doing community engaged scholarship in their coursework. At the same time, we wanted the youth, both inside and outside of the university, to gain digital storytelling skills and ways in which we could elevate their youth voices to get their stories out. Another objective was to strengthen research collaborations within institutions and between institutions in Francophone West Africa. And then the fourth objective was not part of our initial objectives when we came up with the idea for this PIRA project, but it quickly became something that we knew was essential. And that was to address the need for a new continuing commitment to everyday peace building. And you'll see how this plays out moving forward. So I'm going to hand it over now to my colleague Bienvenu Azembo, and he will present the Benin side of the project. Bienvenue.
Merci, bonjour à toutes et à tous.
Thank you, welcome aboard. Bienvenue Azembo is my name. I'm a researcher at the Abama Kalagi University. I'm honored to be here with you all today, this afternoon. It's 2 o'clock, to share with you the findings of this wonderful project. that is undertaken by PIRA here in Benin and Mali, also in the US. As was indicated by my colleague, Marcy, this project wants to be a bridge between universities, NGOs, and grassroots organizations. In Benin, we worked along with NGOs that will be presented very briefly. The first one, we have the Three Sisters NGO, which have it's been funded since 2014, which is interested in education of the youth, boys and girls, which builds their levels thanks to home project program, because you have lots of dropouts because of full funding. So this NGO really has a great impact in the supervision of those kids. So they were party to this. Then we had Matonga. Matonga is an NGO which has been established by the Benin actress that you all know, Angelique Kidjo. She's internationally known, she's well known, and the Matonga NGO, which manages, which builds the capacities of girls and boys, which has some level in that field. So Matonga was straight to this project. We also have another NGO which has been established by a former Professor Kitty, who had been associated to this project because he worked for quite some time with the National Council on Education. So he knows really those programs, school programs that we're having that deal with these issues, because the objective of this project was to changing curriculums. So this professor has an NGO that we call Sagesse and Practices, Wisdom and Practices, composed of young students who wanted really to get committed on the track of development in order to empower themselves. So these are NGOs we work in Benin with SOBO, which is a structure who's really producing videos in many local languages that educate local communities on practical know-hows in order to keep and preserve their product and to build the capacity of the girls and women who are associated with the structure to that project. So the Three Sisters, so we have Matonga, we have Sagesse and Practice, we also have Osombo, and together we have established this link between the structures and the university, because we said that in Benin, as in many Francophone countries, we have a big ditch between university and communities and NGOs. So we wanted really to bridge that hole that exists between various structures. So this made it possible to draft I'm thinking about we drafted an action plan, a tangible one that merges the various skills of each and every structure, and we work together in order to really have that really capacity to provide that capacity to the youth. So we went to university and we've done lots of training program targeting new students so they can be provided with really taste to community engagement. Also university professors were fully involved and were trained in order to mainstream community engagement in their training packages. As I indicated earlier, this is really lacking in our university. So we've been able to benefit from that kind of dissemination in the community arena, because we have students who work with SOBO, with the tools presented by SOBO, the students who translate the tools into local languages, and they really avail to the Three Sisters NGO that use them widely in order for dissemination purposes, targeting boys and girls, women in villages. We'll be able to also really use those girls in certain community thanks to universities. We'll taught them how to use microphones and really speak using their own languages. So national languages are really dropped out, are abandoned. So we have lots of 60% of people are illiterate in our communities. So Matanga worked really with us in order to build the capacity of the girls. So they were able to really communicate using their local languages with the larger groups who also have. Another NGO that really got familiarized with issues in local communities, and they've been to address the challenges really faced by the youth. And with all these structures, we also we participate in various workshops that existed that were organized nationally in various universities. And also we did that in partnership with the University of Bamako. So things went pretty well. This partnership was really very positive. So I'm done. I would like to thank you. Thank you, bienvenue.
The Photo Voice and Everyday Peace Building in Mali project.
Thank you.
Okay, where the Mali team worked with youth who are in IDP camps. There are over 10 IDP camps around Bamako as a result of a joint project with ULSHB and ARCA students at Michigan State. Did a Photo Voice project that lasted over 12 months of just training. Working with mentees who are at the university or mentors at the university, mentees in the camps, to learn about using photos, to talk about their stories, to talk about them in their own voices, and to share them with others. And so also using other collaborations, including ISA for sports and peace building. And then finally, again, really getting into this photography training, trying to get the voices of the youth into the hands of the youth through photography. So we have a great video that's 17 minutes long that'll explain all of this. I can pop that YouTube link into the chat. Thank you all so much for your time.
Yeah, time. Good job, Marcy. I was just coming in to tell you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, team. Now we are going to our last project, which will tell us about US-Botswana collaborative research on youth empowerment and education, smart infrastructure, and mobility innovations for resilient community health. And I'll pass over to Nizer and Philmon and Doreen. Nizer, over to you.
All right, thank you, Abraham. So this project is, as you can see, is a collaborative effort between MSU, University of Botswana, and InFirst Group, which is an outreach and communication group in Botswana that helped us in the implementation of this project. So I'll start initially with the introduction and a few other things, then I'll pass it along to my colleagues, Dr. Odireli and Doreen. Then they will detail the implementation phase of the project in a way and the results that we have obtained so far. So to explain a little bit the overarching objective, the main challenges that we are trying to address in this project is we're trying to target issues related to the systemic problem of unemployment, youth unemployment specifically. In many countries, we're focusing here on Botswana, but the model and the techniques that we have developed, we're looking at expanding them to many other countries in the region and beyond. So to throw in some numbers, for example, in Botswana, the unemployment rate has been consistently above 35% in the last few decades. And even though it dropped a little bit and then it peaked up again post-COVID, it's still at 37% in the latest numbers, which is huge for as an employment rate, specifically for youth. And this can be explained due to many reasons. Some of them is due to the nature of activities in the economy and the slower growth in some gainful, in a way, job sectors and job opportunities, and also to the readiness of the labor market entrant. Also, that's one thing that we're trying to address, issues related to curriculum, to the specific development that is needed in certain sectors, specifically related to IT and technology, for example. And the other things, again, is related to resources and specifically the community livelihood, health, and well-being in certain areas. and also trying to address issues related to innovation and creativity in itself. So that spirit is important, and breaking away in some sort from reliance on always government support. If I, for lack of better words. So that's how we're trying to approach it in a way. So the project goal specifically, what we try to implement in the last couple of years is to examine if a youth program that is blending STEM entrepreneurship, and STEM in this case stands for science, technology, engineering, and math, if it's blended with physical activity-based life skills, can it empower youth that are participating in the program to innovate, to promote innovation? And in terms of what we are focusing on and innovation, we're focusing on a specific sector related to mobility and infrastructure. And to explain more the multiple relations here that you heard, I'm sure you heard like a lot of terms related to sectors that are typically separate. So to explain it a little bit more, as I said, we're focusing on youth employment, and we believe that innovation is one way to go about it. Innovation related to new technologies, specifically electronics, AI. So there's few sectors related to IT that we think would be able to promote job growth, especially in the private sector. And to do that, we focused on the sector of infrastructure. We think that infrastructure is a big driver in economies, especially in developing countries, and especially in countries like Botswana, when everything is being built. So the country is building from the ground up when it comes to roads, bridges, everything that is infrastructure. We think that is a good phase to promote innovation. And what we try to focus on specifically is to promote locally grown technologies that will have a high impact on the job market. So that's the relation. And then how it relates back to health and physical activity. We think that when we are building infrastructure, when we are building cities, the focus on community health is very important. So we are building an environment that is at the service of the community. And there are a lot of innovations that can be centered around that concept. And that will drive the economy for the next few decades in a way. So that's the relation between all the components that we are putting together in this project. And the specific objectives, the way that we approached it, again, is through a youth program in the context of STEM health. And we looked at ideas related, for example, to mobile health apps that can promote physical activity, promote mental health, promote well-being. And also we looked at low cost, easy to implement, and specifically locally developed technologies that can at the same time engage the youth into creation, entrepreneurship, and will lead to job creation and will lead to growth in the economy. And again, we focused on specific topics related to disaster management, infrastructure systems, infrastructure management, that we believe are very important for the local economy. And it's not just for Botswana, but in general for even here, infrastructure is a huge component of the economy. And that explains our technical focus on that in some sort. From here, I'll pass it to Phil to explain the methodologies and what we have implemented and we achieved through the project. Phil?
Thank you, Nisa. Yeah, as Nisa has very well explained the project, my name is Philemon Udirile. I'm the PI on the side of University of Botswana. And I'll be explaining what activities we actually did. And as you have heard, this project actually was aiming at youth empowerment. And the group that we looked at, we were looking at secondary school students to try to ensure that we focus on the secondary school students because they still have a future ahead of us, and they can grow with these ideas or entrepreneurial ideas or innovative ideas, and be able to improve on some of the infrastructure that we are having, and for them to design a proper infrastructure in the future. We started with a youth development camp where we invited about 40 secondary school students from across the country. And they were from about 12 secondary schools. And they were in the age range between 14 and 19 years old. And these students, actually, when we brought them, we invited them to Gaborone to come and think of ideas of how they can actually solve these kind of problems. So what we did is we invited them, and then we asked them to walk across the city of Gaborone. 2 minutes, okay. And then, okay. And then we asked them to sit in groups in order to think of ideas and then innovate and come up with innovations. One of the other activity was the stakeholder roundtable discussion, where we invited CEOs of parastatals and ministries, or permanent secretaries of ministries, to come and discuss some of these issues, how the university can change the curriculum, especially in secondary schools. And the other activities, next slide, please. The other activities was the capacity building workshop, where we invited the teachers from those secondary schools that we were engaging to come and learn exactly the same thing that the students were learning, so that they can assist these students when they come back to their respective schools, so that whatever that the students learned, it doesn't end up at the camp, but it continues, and these teachers and students can empower other students. Okay, and then the next thing was the installation of smart sensors. These smart sensors were actually the same things that the students were actually doing in the camp. So we used these smart sensors on the bridge, in the Kazungula Bridge, which is used between Botswana, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And this was to monitor the integrity of the bridge, and also to try to find out if there is anything happening to the bridge. Okay, can go to the next one. Okay, next slide. All right. Yes. Now, what we did also, we actually visited the schools again to go and launch the Health Smart Clubs. These Health Smart Clubs from in those schools that we invited, and we offered them some Raspberry Pis, which they were to use in that. And the next slide, will be Doreen to finalize the presentation, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Uderile and Neza. My name is Doreen Ulerile. I am a PI in this PIRA Health Smart project and the INFOS group. So I'm gonna quickly jump off to picking up a few achievements and map a way forward on the communication and engagement side from INFOS. So in this project, like I've said, in first was entrusted with facilitating communication and engagement. As you all know, the role of communication is important, more so that in our project, we were dealing
just quickly, because we're out of time.
stakeholders who consumed and understood our knowledge differently. Our stakeholders were young people and at the same time, people of high level, policymakers, researchers, communities who needed to understand what the project is all about for a greater impact. So we started off by conceptualizing the project and brand identity. This is your logo, themes, and the colors, so that our messaging becomes easier to be identified and associated with us. We moved on to designing the tools for communications, which are social media platforms. These are your Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn for professionals. Like you see in the slide, we had a very good relationship with the media. We unpacked this project for them, and they were so fascinated. Hence, we had a very good coverage. So going forward, we aim to engage policymakers by packaging the results, and we will develop a policy brief to engage relevant stakeholders. Thank you. The time is just too short. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I'll try to ask some questions where you can add in the Q&A piece.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Nize, Phil, and Doreen. Now we'll move on to the session of questions and answers. Back to you, Amy.
Oh, thank you, Abraham. So there are a couple questions that came to my mind, and I'll also ask people to submit questions in the Q&A feature again. But one question that came to my mind for Marcy and Bienvenue, specifically Bienvenue, you raised the issue of the universities not having that tradition of connecting with communities in the NGO sector. But after this project, do you see that that sort of momentum that you started to build? Do you see that engagement with community and civil society with the university continuing? Oh, Bienvenue, you there?
Who is the question directed to?
Merci pour cette question.
Yeah.
Okay, c'est à Bienvenue. Okay.
Okay, yes, to Bienvenue. Okay, welcome. Thank you for asking this question. Thank you. It was the first thing, really. That was the first time, because the university is a very elitist group. You know, it was not very easy to get close to the community and the youth. Now, thanks to this program, this project, the students first were very far from teacher, were closer to students. We could work hand in hand. We were closer now in our relationships, and we worked on really tangible things, really to be used by. So we had a reconciliation between students and teachers. Those teachers really went to the communities and started working with NGOs as an added advantage. And the tools that were drafted by students were used by NGOs with the local community. So women were very happy to see us, we from the university, to come and talk to them and communicate with them using their local languages, African languages, because I said earlier on that Benin is a Francophone country, and the main language is French. So, but in this program and this initiative, they were able to use their own languages, local languages, and that was not really an easy win, really, because people were kind of really surprised to see this kind of new initiative. So we created that kind of communion, that kind of merger, that was really a positive move, really. Will we proceed? So that was at a small scale. Now let's try to build this kind of thing and give it some greater momentum. I think building bridges really is a positive thing, really. You have to get closer to the communities. That was our #1 objective. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bienvenue. Hold on, let me change over to my original audio. Thank you, Bienvenue. That's very helpful, and I'm glad to see that momentum is moving forward. Now a question to the team, Nizara, Philemon, and Doreen. Philemon, you mentioned that some of the, there was the innovation challenges that you posed to the youth. And do you have any examples of some really cool innovations that the youth had thought up, or some promising innovations that you saw arising from the creativity of these youth?
Yes, actually, because the time was very short, we could have, shown you some of those, and the kind of things the students actually did. One of the teams that try some innovation, well, they created. Actually, they found that, especially when people are exercising, so they tend to sweat a lot, and they designed a wristband that is inserted with a smart sensor that will be monitoring how the amount of sweat that the person is getting, and then to try to assess whether that person, or to try to alert the person that you actually need to hydrate. So that was a hydration app or something like that. So it was a very interesting innovation that we saw. The other one that was also interesting is that they said they realized that some people are not really keen to exercise. So in order for them to actually entice them to exercise, they created a tile, so where people will be jumping on each tile in order to play some game. So it was a game that is played especially in the rural areas. So they said, okay, this tile will always be illuminating different colors, and that person will have to be jumping onto one color, and you'll be chasing this color. And when you think you are playing a game, you are actually exercising. So they are actually trying to force people to exercise, thinking that they are not exercising, but just playing. So there were quite a lot of exciting projects that they did, and we are anticipating that these clubs that we have launched, they will be coming up with other innovations that they will have to take maybe to competitions, and maybe we can improve them in the future. Thank you.
Just to add on that, there's one more good project that I think is impressive that it came from students, is an information sharing system related to stocks of medicine in the country. For example, if someone is in a different city and there is a shortage of certain medicine that is available in other places around the country, and if someone is traveling from city to city, they have access to their medical records also on the system, and they have access to different stocks, right? Sharing system between hospitals, pharmacies, and the availability of medicine. I think that was a good project, and impressive that it came from young students.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. Great. That's really exciting. I love hearing those stories, and the creativity that comes out of this when youth are given the opportunity to kind of think about challenges and solutions. It's really exciting. So then I wanted to come back to Marcy. Marcy, you didn't have much of a chance, I know the time was short, to talk about the Photo Voice project, but maybe you could expand on some of the themes that emerged, or some of the lessons that you learned, or ideas that were kind of came out of that Photo Voice project.
Yeah, thanks. And one thing I think that we learned in this entire project, and it's related to the photo voice, but also to the Benin and sort of overall, is that community engagement can have many different forms. And the role of the university and the professor, the lecturer, the person who is organizing that community engagement may vary. And so one of the things that we found was in Benin, it had there had not been a lot of community engagement thus far. So we had a lot of workshops on what does it mean to put this into your class? Can it be as small as one assignment all the way through to something really very in-depth, like what was happening in Mali, was this year-long project coming up to the photo voice. So like all of the sort of runway that leads up to something that can be as impactful as photo voice. And especially because, working with youth who are in a vulnerable situation, they're in an IDP camp, need to be really careful about that and not have this be exploitative, that this is a real partnership and that the stories are coming from the youth, that they're comfortable with telling the stories, and that so are those around them, so that telling the story doesn't put them in more danger. And so because of the shifts in Malian government over the course of our project, talk about resilience. We really had to think about things, the military takeover, the ability to move easily around in Bamako and outside. Because there were long-standing relationships there, because there were conversations with the community leaders as well as the leaders of the camps, we made sure to only move forward when it was safe for everyone to move forward. And it did shift. And some of the stories and themes that came out of that were youth finding joy in sort of the everyday life. And what Steve talks about, Steve Esquith, in his work on everyday peace building, it's not just peace accord talks that make peace. It is the everyday peace with your neighbor. It's the peace within your family, and the relationships that you have with those with whom you are in very close quarters. The loss of privacy, right? So those were some of the really interesting themes that came out of the Photo Voice project. And again, one of the things we'd hoped to do was to have an exhibition in the camp. And it became clear towards the end that that would probably not be a good idea. So we've tabled it, but now we've morphed it a little bit in recent talks with Steve and Bienvenue and the teams in Mali about what would it mean to take these photos that were taken by the youth and use technology like AI to say, pick elements of this that really speak to you. Imagine a peaceful future, a peaceful, like place them someplace peaceful. And we're thinking about, this is sort of where we're going with this is into that cultural competence and also like this like AI literacy, right? That's important for youth to be able to identify what's AI, what's not, what's real, what's not. Anyway, that's sort of where we're going. I've kind of rambled on a bit, but those were some of the themes that came out.
Oh, super interesting. Thank you so much, Marcy. Bienvenue, you said you had something to add to that?
Oui, merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Following Marcy's remarks, I would like to, in Benin, students who've been trained to so-good technology was very attracted by this technology, how to establish materials like this, because they didn't have these notions initially in the past. So they gain new technological know-how to work on videos and really do editing work, except these are notions that really students were able to learn. And this made it possible for them to really produce video capsules that synthesizes all the activities, the intervention that happen in Benin, videos lasting about 30 minutes, 20 minutes, done, produced solely by students thanks to those gained skills. So this is really a very positive thing. And another thing I would like to add to the talk, when these videos went to schools for sensitization purposes, this created really lots of joy, really, because we don't have videos in our schools, but when we went to sometimes thanks to videos, etc., video projectors, this really was a positive thing, and messages really went really easily. These messages were done in using local languages. Because in the past, really only French idiom was used. So videos were produced using local language, and statistics have shown that communication is went properly when with the use of those local languages. So students were very emotional, and the level of understanding was higher versus really francophone videos. So just to make a long story short, that state should be really working toward introducing local languages in the education system, because French is not always useful, because communication is maybe 6% of what is said is understood when it's done in French, but when it's done using local languages, 90% really of the message is grasped, is understood by the global community. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's an important, important to raise. Oh, sorry, let me change out of the English. Yes, that's an important issue to raise. Bienvenue. Thank you so much for that. We just have a couple minutes left. I wanted to come back to Philomen, Nizar, and Doreen. There's a question asked about your sample of the study population in the Q&A, and I just wanted to come back to you and learn a little bit more about how you identified the youth to engage in this project, and kind of sort of what were the criteria you were thinking through to bring them into this, and the recruitment strategy you used for that.
Alors, je peux parler des stratégies de recrutement chez nous.
Oh, sorry, bienvenue. I was sorry. I just wanted to give Philomen and
désolé.
Okay. Pas de problème. Oui, Nizar and Doreen a chance.
Okay. Well, the way we identified the student, it was not so much according to the population of students. It was, in fact, we were actually looking at the country, and then we decided that, okay, no, we have to get schools from the city center, from around the city center, and in the south, in the west, and in the north. So that is how we were identifying. The schools that we really wanted to take. So because we wanted to spread it according to the size of the country. Thank you. Nizar, can I add it?
Yeah, Nizar, Doreen, anything to add there?
All right. So in addition to that, the geographic distribution around the country, once the schools were selected, so we reached out to the teachers, and we had a set of criteria, and the school identified candidates, student candidates. So they were selected by the teachers. And the same thing happened when we had the training for the teachers, right? The schools identified at least one STEM teacher and one from a different field. We didn't just wanted to focus only on STEM. So we wanted to involve everyone. So we had 2 teachers per school from 2 different fields that were identified by the school, and they identified a group of students from each school. Right? That's how we worked.
Great, thanks so much. I think we can learn about how to run these sorts of projects. It's really informative for those who want to take up research and working with youth in this sort of way. So thank you. Our time has come to an end. I know there's 100 more things we'd like to discuss here, but we hope that this is just the beginning of the discussion as these teams move their work forward. We will be checking in with them, and AAP will be engaging them in further work and to disseminate this research. But so stay tuned to our channels. Abraham, I'll turn it over to you with that.
Thank you so much, Amy, for facilitating this. And colleagues, I would like to thank colleagues for coming through. And I just wanted to say that next up was going to be Richard, but due to unforeseen circumstances, he couldn't attend. In his presence, in his absence, I would then take over and do some closing remarks. But really, it's not about making closing remarks, but just reminding colleagues and also, sharing that we really appreciate seeing this innovative projects. All I could see from all these presentations is inclusivity, co-creation. There are most of them, all of them, if not all, human-centric. I see excellent communication and engagement. And this is what we really want to do, facilitate or encourage Global South partnerships and South-South partnerships, and really building bridges and equitable partnerships. And I do believe that all of you enjoyed working with each other, and that is what we want to achieve, building equitable partnerships amongst yourselves. And I am very positive that out of all these projects, since this is a seed fund just to launch you into bigger projects, I'm very much looking forward to seeing these projects taking off into becoming programs and very big projects, and launching novel ideas that changes lives into our continent. Now, for this, I wanted to also give you colleagues a heads up on the next announcement for the PIRA project. I would ask my colleague Derek to put out the slide. Yes. Now, please be on the lookout next month for this announcement for the next PIRA grant. It's going to be on the 11th of March, this coming month. And then we'll be having question and answer for grant writing workshop. Those who want to understand really, what is required for this grant and what we really wish to achieve can log in and really follow us. On the 4th of April, there's going to be question and answer and grant writing workshop where you'll be equipped with the techniques. And if you have any questions regarding this, it will be opportunity. Then the submissions for the deadline is going to be on August the 12th. So I think I do also have the details of when of the grant. Like it's going to be awarded on the deadline, on the 20th of November. There's going to be when the awardees will be actually rather the 9th of October. You're going to be the announcement of the award of the winners, and in January 2025 to July, it's an implementation period. So please do pass out the word. Look out, stay tuned to our social media pages, emails, and do share the word out there and help us reach out to more consortium members and faculty members who can apply for this. Thank you so much. Thank you for making the time. Thank you for sharing excellent ideas. And thank you for coming really to learn from others and learning from other, benchmarking from others. That is what we want to achieve. And in the absence of any further questions, I would like to say goodbye, colleagues. Thank you.